I was concentrating 100% on being a chemist, going to school, working as a chemist, and getting an advanced degree. And then in my mid-30s, my husband, Vincent Verplanck, and I started having children. And I decided that it would be much more fun to raise children than to continue working as a chemist and commuting to Philadelphia. So I retired, and after just a few months, a friend of mine said, well, you've got to continue using your brain. And the YWCA in Wilmington desperately needs somebody who can be a chair of the finance committee. So why don't you see if that might not work for you? That's really how I started my career in nonprofits, by using the training I had to think things through and to work things out, and then became hooked on working for nonprofits and forgot all about chemistry. I got into governance because again, when I was on the national board of the YWCA, we had something called association reviews, and a volunteer and staff member spent 2 or 3 days every 2 or 3 years in different member associations. What I learned there was that they needed to have a good systems in place, good administration, good volunteers, and so on, in order to fulfill their mission. So over the years, I became pretty knowledgeable about what good governance means. I went to Radcliffe College and got a bachelor's degree in chemistry, and then decided that really one needed more education if one wanted to make chemistry a career. So I went on to Yale University and received a Ph.D. in organic chemistry. And then I worked there for several years in various non-teaching positions. And my only job in this area was working at the Academy of Natural Sciences in the limnology department, which was headed by Ruth Patrick at the time. Limnology is the science of fresh water. Well, as I say, I started out with the YWCA in Wilmington and then worked in various other organizations, either doing finance or fundraising, and then spent several years 12 years on the national board of the YWCA, where I really learned about fundraising, development, and governance. I think what really drew me to nonprofits is their mission and what they did and what they tried to accomplish. The strongest motivation is to believe in what the organization is doing, that the organization has the mission of the organization, and that they are able to fulfill their mission. They might need some help in various areas, but that they're on the right path. Well, I think for new board members, say the first thing is you've got to believe in the organization, not just sit on a board for the sake of sitting on the board. You have to find a niche in that organization, and there are lots of different niches. You don't have to do what I did, but some people are much more interested in the programmatic aspects, for instance. In order to raise major funds, it really has to be a one-on-one. You have to know the person to whom you're going. You have to know what their interests are and what their hot buttons are, and then home in on those. I think the biggest need is to cultivate people, and you've got to find out how you're cultivating them. And it's getting them to the organization, sending them some materials, and then again finding out, do they want mail appeals, do they want electronic appeals, do they want personal appeals? And the next most important thing is to always thank people. I know of one instance where somebody was talking, well, I didn't give them any money, and I said, why? He said, because they never asked me. You must ask, but if you can't ask, you find somebody else to ask.
Okay.
And you have to, again with major donors, you have to do a lot of cultivation, because you don't want to ask too soon because you might not get enough money. I was meeting with a donor about something completely different. I had no intention of raising funds, but the opportunity came up to tell that person a story that I thought might be compelling. Without any further ado, that person made a major contribution to the organization.
And then what did you do?
I said, thank you. And then I wrote a thank you note. Well, it makes you feel very humble, because I think you were able to tell the story where it made an impact. And it does make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think sometimes you think that you are really prepared and you have a good story and the person is going to respond to it. And for totally unknown reasons, that person does not respond. And that happens quite frequently. And it's very sort of devastating, because you think you've really done everything right and you achieve no results. It's a step along the way, and sometimes you think, all right, let's not waste energy in that direction, but go try and put your energy somewhere else. Well, the reason I started it was probably quite selfish, because one way to maximize your donations is to have a stock that has appreciated, that you can donate at its and not pay capital gains tax. I started this fund, it's a family fund, at the Delaware Community Foundation before the Chester County Community Foundation was established, so that I would have a vehicle to sort of park some money when it was available and then use it when I needed it. I think they would help me if I needed advice with where to give money, and they always give a list of organizations that they know can use money, but I have enough ideas of my own, so I don't need this. But I think the biggest advantage is that they administer the money. You have very, very low administrative costs. The Jordan Award has been given to many, many outstanding philanthropists. I am certainly not in the same league with some of them as far as donating money is concerned, but I've done a fair amount helping people raise money, and so it was a great honor to receive it. I think it's, again, believing in what you're doing. I think that is the strongest motivation for me. That if somebody asked me to help them with some kind of a campaign or something where I really don't believe in it, I say no. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if somebody asked me to work with them or for an organization, then I only do it if I can really spend time on it. But lip service is not part of it. Mm-hmm. I think in many families there has been a history of philanthropy and history of giving, but I also think that in many families, just as in any generation, this has not been the case. And so starting the next generation on a fundraising path is critical to help them understand the needs of the various organizations, and especially in an area like Chester County, where so many people feel this is the wealthiest county, and how come we need all these services. And I think it's a real wake-up call when people realize what the poverty rate in the county is and what the needs other than poverty are. Mm-hmm. I was very active both originally in the United Way of Delaware, now in the United Way of Southern Chester County. And you see the different agencies, you see the different needs that they represent, and you also see the different levels of competence in dealing with the needs. Well, there are two different, there are agencies that are well-established agencies, and you really expect them to know what they're doing. There are quite a few grassroots agencies that provide tremendous services in the area, and you have to find ways of helping them to achieve a certain level of competence to do their work, and then finding resources for them. Well, I do it, and I think it's part of one's responsibility. If one has the wherewithal to help others, one needs to help others. I think it really depends on the person. They can do it programmatically, they can do it administratively. I think they can. There are a lot of people who get a tremendous amount of satisfaction for instance, tutoring and doing one-on-one service. There are others who are much better at doing things more sort of conceptually. The danger there is that a volunteer has to be very careful what is the volunteer's role and what is the staff role, and not to usurp the staff role. When you look at the statistics, a tremendous amount of money is owned by women now and administered by women. And the idea of Mr. Philanthropist goes back a generation or two, when women really paid no attention to finances. And when they made a contribution to their college, they had to ask their husband for it. And furthermore, the distribution between men and women was very, in giving was very, very different. But I think those times are changing, or have changed. But I've come from a long line of strong women, and that I'm sure has helped me. Well, as I say, this goes back to somewhat to my scientific background too, but I really am very interested in conservation, and especially in, just specifically in this area, in water quality, and I think this is one of the areas that people are really not aware of, is how critical water is to the survival of any country. I think that it's critical that each person involved, the people around them and their families in philanthropy, and I think that legacy philanthropy is critical to be able to, for groups to continue what they're good at doing. Well, I think planned giving is something that's very important, and I've been involved in various organizations in planned giving. I think that it is very hard for people to make planned gifts because they really don't know what their circumstances will be eventually. And there are ways of doing it. I mean, for instance, you can put something in your will and then you can take it out again, but that really is nothing that an organization can count on. There are other people who are looking for income beyond retirement and do annuities and various things like that, which are advantageous financially. And I think, again, it's on a case-by-case basis, and people need to talk with their families and their advisors to figure out what is best in their circumstances.
So
What can be very dangerous is that an organization that is doing very well now may be defunct 20 years from now, and you need to have some kind of contingency plans. For instance, when you put your money into the community foundation, you can have either successor trustees, or you can then turn the money over to the foundation, and they can make the right choices. On the other end, they can also make the choices that you tell them to do. But I'm so committed to what the community foundation is doing and so interested in it that I hope to continue as long as I can.